Well, we're back, Carl. It's been a while since we've released a video. Did you miss me? What do you mean you didn't notice I was gone? Carl, it's been like 6 months since you've seen me. The best months of your life, really. Wow. Just wow. And here I thought we could start fresh and maybe be friends. Ryan. My name is Ryan, Carl. You are unbelievable. Hi, this video is an introduction to a series I'll be releasing connected to a course that I'm teaching. The course is called Living as Nature. In this video, I'll give an overview of what that course will explore, and the sources I'll draw on while engaging in said exploration. Let's get started. The main concept of living as nature is that human beings are part of the natural world, and we can only really understand ourselves if we understand how interwoven we are with the world of which we are a part. There are two fundamental aspects to this claim. First, understanding identity as narrative. Second, understanding humanity as, at least in part, creatures that are bodies. Let's examine each claim. There are at least two fundamental ways of understanding the notion of narrative identity. The first is that human beings tend to develop a story about ourselves in order to construct a sense of identity. We likely think of ourselves as the main character in our story, a story that has some sense of plot, purpose, meaning, setting, and so on. This aspect of narrative identity is a psychological phenomenon, in the sense that it's created or constructed by human minds. The second idea is that human lives are part of an entangled web of realities, and we can understand this entangled web as a grand story of which we are a part. In this sense, our individual lives are connected to, and made possible by, other lives, and the development of the world around us. The story of the world, or the universe, is therefore part of our story. Or, perhaps it's better to say, our stories are wrapped up within the story of the universe. This idea that our lives are wrapped up in the universe story is the aspect of narrative identity that I'm going to focus on in this video series. Let me summarize this point. To say that human beings are necessarily entangled in the story of the universe is to say that, without the unique development of the universe, including the development of various life forms within it, human beings wouldn't be here to think about our stories at all. So, our stories are part of a much larger story. And to better understand our individual stories, we need to understand that larger story. Let me highlight a few points, which we'll discuss in more detail in future videos, to clarify this claim. Within the first second of our universe's formation, a structure of law-like regularity and forces emerged. These forces included gravity, electromagnetism, and the weak and strong nuclear forces. Without these forces in place, subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, stars, and planets like ours wouldn't have formed as they did. It follows that life like ours wouldn't have formed like it did. The very first second of the universe, then, was instrumental in the formation of our stories. It made stories like ours possible. Without that moment, we're not here at all. Another example is the function of stars in making heavier elements such as carbon and iron. Iron. I don't know how to say that. The extreme heat energy of stars was necessary to make these heavier elements. And these elements, especially carbon, were necessary to make life as we know it. The carbon in our body and the iron in our blood were literally forged in stars. That means that there is matter in your body right now that, at one point in the history of the universe, was in the heart of a dying star. Without that star's life and death, you wouldn't be here. A third example is the way that volcanic activity in early single-celled organisms functioned to transform Earth's atmosphere, making it viable for creatures such as us. Again, without these combined forces and shifts, creatures like us wouldn't be here at all. So much more can be said, and we'll explore that in future videos. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs made it possible for our mammalian ancestors to evolve. Bad for dinosaurs, good for us. I guess good for chickens too. Maybe. Humans develop complex language, farming, intricate societies, and increasingly advanced technologies that lead us to the kind of world we live in today. All of these various aspects combine to produce a story, a narrative filled with mystery, awe, and wonder that depicts humans as intricately connected to the world around us. In other words, we are part of this world. Hence the title of this series is not Living with Nature, but living as nature. The second point I mentioned earlier is that humans are embodied creatures. This just means that whatever else we are, we also appear to be bodies. Creatures that are made up of matter. This isn't necessarily to say that matter is all that we are, perhaps there's more to us in terms of consciousness, or, to use religious language, spirit or soul. This is actually a much larger philosophical conversation we'll touch on in later videos. But that point aside, at bare minimum, we appear to be intricately connected to these bodies. Perhaps it's better to say that we are bodies, not simply that we have bodies. From the perspective of this video series, Living as Nature, we want to ask a few questions about this. How did these bodies that we are come about? What exactly are these bodies? And how do these bodies thrive or flourish? Regarding the question of how these bodies came about, we already mentioned that some of the elements in these bodies were produced by dying stars. And this whole process was possible by the structure of the universe that was formed in the first second of the universe's existence. We can add, looking at both anatomy and embryology, that is, the study of embryos, that human bodies seem to be closely related to other bodies, which lends credence to the idea that humans are part of a larger family tree. In other words, we evolved from common non-human ancestors. Again, we'll say more about this in future videos. The point again is that this suggests that we are connected to the world around us. Regarding the question of what these bodies are, one point of interest is that human bodies aren't entirely human. Your body is in fact the home of trillions of non-human creatures, bacteria. And without these creatures, you wouldn't be able to survive. This point speaks to the question of what human bodies need to thrive and flourish. We need the symbiotic relationship with bacteria in order to survive, thrive, and flourish. We also need food and air, which are only available to us because of what other living creatures are doing. Oxygen, for example, is produced by plant life. Trees, and more broadly rainforests, are particularly important. But it might surprise you to learn that ocean life does more heavy lifting here. Phytoplankton produces a significant amount of the oxygen that we breathe, probably more than 50% of it. So, what we are, our material bodies, and where we came from, in terms of the history of the universe that makes life like ours possible, suggests that humans are entangled within the story of the universe. It makes sense then that to better understand ourselves, we might want to better understand this story and how it contributes to our lives. That's precisely what this video series seeks to do. None of this is new, of course. It's part of a large movement called Big History, which is itself a development of other ideas from the past. The term Big History was coined by the historian David Christian. It refers to an exploration of the entire history of the universe as a way of understanding our place within and in relation to it. For these videos, I'll be using Christian's text, Origin Story, A Big History of Everything, as a basic roadmap. But I'll be supplementing this source with other sources as well, including the Big History Project. Be sure to check out the video description for details and links for further reading. I hope that you find this video series enjoyable. Until next time, farewell. I'm just saying, I remembered your name was Carl. It's not that hard, Carl. How hard is it to remember that my name's Ryan? Your last name? I don't think I ever knew your last name.